Knowing and understanding, the only thing in between those two things is experience. Remember that. Anyways, let's get into it, shall we? So, after all of the emotional, spiritual, physical healing and work, all of it really fuels perspective. All of it waters down to perspective, because as a human being, your perspective is what's going to drive your actions. Your perspective is what's going to drive your decisions and most of the things that you're doing, just about everything. And perspective has been my biggest thing right now. I love perspective ever since I came across it and really actually started digging into it and the things that it makes up, where I see it at in my experiences in my life. It has really fueled me and really excited me in so many ways. And today I want to share one of the perspectives that I have held and how it has kind of changed, and something funny I've seen come up in my experiences recently that I want to share. So if you watch my videos, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll probably hear me talk about saying like, the world's just so big. You know, I've said that a few times in my videos, just saying the world is so big. So it was about a year ago when I took on this perspective, you know, of the world just being so big. And, you know, drawing that perspective back in, to me, it was like, well, I'm so small. Not in an insignificant way, as if I'm small, so I don't mean anything. But it was like, I'm just like a fragment of the universe, a fragment of the world. And that inspired me and gave me the confidence to put myself out and begin putting myself out into the world, onto social media, and just being vulnerable in small, minor ways at that point in time. Well, at this point in time, actually, but those things were really, really big for me then. And that's the thing we're getting into today. Perspective and measuring. Oh my goodness, the goods. Okay. But yeah, so that was about a year ago. And since then, I've just been putting myself out more and more and more, piece by piece, step by step, you know, making incremental changes. However, recently I stumbled across this same kind of process. It looked a little different, but it was like big world, small me. And I say it looks different because that's where the insignificance came in. That's where a feeling of insignificance came in. I was like, wow, like I want to do big things. I want to make a big impact, a big difference on the world in some type of way. And knowing that the world is so big and that the idea of it is big alone, but not even as big as the world, you know, it just all felt so big. It all felt so insignificant, as if it was almost impossible, as if perhaps it wouldn't be enough to actually make the difference that I imagined in my mind. Now, afterwards, I was able to like pull myself together and give myself a different perspective that would actually help me. In that moment, I had to reassure myself that quality over quantity, the quality of this desire to make an impact is more than anything. Even if it's just one person I impact, still the quality of it is what matters, not just it being one person. The fact that anyone in this world can invoke a feeling in someone else, can relate to someone else, can share and exchange in so many different ways with other people is quality and powerful alone. It doesn't really matter about that quantity. So I just reassured myself of that, and also remembering that the steps that I'm taking now to make that difference matters as well. Even though this desire comes through in a really, really big way, it's important to understand that it's not any more than, it's not better than the moves and actions I'm putting in this moment now. It doesn't make my actions less comparable to the things that I desire. However, it's not really too much of what I want to get into today, but what I realized is the reason why these two things went in two completely directions with like the same materials of it being a big world and being little old me is that desire. So initially with the first situation, my desire was just, hey, like, I want to put myself out there. Putting myself out there at one point felt like all eyes are looking at me. Like once I post this video, it's like everybody's looking at me. The whole world can see me. Oh my goodness, I'm so vulnerable. That's what it felt like. It is kind of still does feel like that to this day, but shit, I just keep doing it. For real, for real. But that was my desire. It was to put myself out. So my perspective matched with that. However, with this thing, the more recent situation, it was this desire to do something big, to make a difference. And what I began to do is I started to compare my desire to the world. And looking at my desire, it felt inferior to the world and the size of the world, not the quality of it whatsoever, not the quality. That's the thing I had to reassure myself too, is feelings are big. Those things matter just as much as how big the world is and everything else outside of myself. But that led me to understand that, oh, there's different ways to measure a perspective. And I say measure a perspective, I really want to break that down a little bit because me, myself, I kind of don't quite understand that. When I say I don't understand, it's not like it's not in here, but hasn't yet been articulated. You know what I mean? The difference between knowing and understanding, the only thing in between those two things is experience. Remember that. I'm just throwing shit out there. Fuck it. Quality is like this internal thing. It's like the feelings, the beliefs, the desires I have as well. Even though you can create perspectives on your desires as well, desire still kind of fuels perspective. Yeah. And then externally you have distance. So distance is like a big thing when it comes to perspective, because it's like especially like when it comes to goals and things like that, it's like I'm here and that thing I want is way the fuck over there. But you worry too much about that, you might not make that first step, that second step, or the very much needed steps after that. You know what I mean? But oh my goodness, I'm thinking of perspectives literally. But with that, the best perspective for that is like it's like, if I'm not taking these steps, then what am I doing? What am I gonna do with my life if I'm not taking these steps that I feel pushed into? What else would I do? Even though it looks hard, it looks like a lot, but like, what the fuck else do I have to do? I like that. But you also have size, and that was the thing that came up in my situation. It was like this comparison. A lot of times with size, it comes comparison. It comes, well, shit, this thing is bigger than that. The thing about desires too is like, honestly, once you receive them, like, it's like the steps and the process of taking those steps kind of prepare you for so much for the desire that once it comes, a lot of times it's not necessarily too surprising. That doesn't mean that you don't get like unexpected surprises when it comes to your desires, but a lot of times they prepare you. So like once you get that desire, it's like, hey, yeah, I do have this thing. The same way, like, me 2 years ago, she definitely desired a peace of mind, and I have that now. But is that something that I'm able to really capture for myself every single day? No, because the desire is fulfilled. Once the desire is fulfilled, it's just like on to the next. And you can forever be grateful and show that thanks and whatever the case, but it's just like on to the next. And that doesn't mean that like my mind space doesn't like have its moments. That doesn't mean I don't get down by life's experiences. But the thing is, I always got all the tools that I need. So it's just really a matter of driving to solution. And I mean that in the least practical way ever, because like solution requires sitting in that shit. But honestly, it's just like one of those things that you have to maintain, once you fulfill that desire of getting the house, it's about maintaining the house. You have the house now, just maintaining it. Or perhaps even decorating it and everything and then maintaining it. But still, it's just like on to the next. You don't desire to have the house anymore, you have it. I'm gonna take the time actually to kind of go more in depth about this series. This series is gonna show up in numerous ways that I probably can't even imagine quite yet. But the thing about perspective is there's so many ways you can play with it, so many ways you can display it, so many ways you can learn and teach it and experience it. So expect a lot of different a lot of diversity in what I'm sharing, because I know the video even before this, like, that goes, it plays an aspect in perspective, but would you really be able to pick up I'm talking about perspective? You picking up what I'm putting down? But with my recent situation, it definitely let me know that it's time to allow the quality, the things I feel, to play a role in the perspectives that I'm creating, you know? Especially because I've came to a place where I understand my emotions and understand my feelings in a better way. I feel like I can trust myself to begin allowing that to play a role in creating perspective. So yeah, I have a big ass desire. It's big as fuck. Nowhere near as big as this earth, but who am I to compare the two? It feels so big. It weighs on me every day. So technically it's just as big, you know? And that's the thing about perspective. It's about switching that over. Instead of, well, this thing is so small because compared to the world, in the size of the world, it's so small. But really, the quality of this is much, much bigger. Much bigger. Why? Because I've experienced it. I can feel it. It's a continuous feeling. And when it's yoked out of me, when it's invoked by things in my reality, it's big. It consumes my mind, body, and spirit. That's big. Fuck the quantity. That's big as fuck, man. To be able to feel something so huge and deeply, because honestly, we could just like be robots. Like, we could. There are probably people out there that kind of like are in a way, you know what I mean? But that's also reality. So I feel like it's important to begin taking on those feelings in a big way, not the small one, in a very big way. And letting that fuel my actions as well, if anything. Because shit, you create this perspective that when I'm feeling is big, and not that it has to like overpower anyone either. See, and that's the thing. I've done so much healing, so much things that I understand. Those, it's the corners you don't want to go down. You know what I mean? I understand that path to take in order to pursue my perspective, pursue and add things onto it to allow my desires and what I feel to fuel that perspective and fuel my drive, fuel my actions, and run me down this road. So yeah, I'll actually go ahead and share my essential question for the week with you guys and allow you guys to answer in the comments. What qualitative matters do you feel need a larger capacity in your perspective in your life, and why? So for me, personally, I just feel like it's my feelings. The things that I feel, more so connected to my desires, but feelings as a whole, just like those things in my heart that I feel, I want those things to begin playing a part in my perspective and how I see things. Also changes. So, this is a bit of a weird one because it's not necessarily like a qualitative matter, but it's something that I want to begin seeing on a bigger scope. So like the changes that I make, even though it might be that first step those very, very beginner level steps, I want to begin acknowledging the beauty in it and acknowledging the quality of it, that, oh my goodness, I've done something different. I've made a change. Starting with this video, this is one of my first videos where like I kind of see myself getting more personal, which was my goal before I shot this video and also in the past. I've been kind of wanting to get more personal, but it always kind of felt a bit like a force at times. But I'm happy I took the first step. I got personal. I talked about something that I'm working on. I don't usually talk about these things, and I'm like writing notes and shit on, and that kind of ponder on my mind throughout the day. I don't usually share those, but I found a way to do that today, and I'm so excited for that. I'm happy I made a change. I'm happy I did something different. And yeah, so share your answer in the comments, and until next time, my love. Bitch, make you bitch wet. No bars. It's like, yeah, we all know that we have thoughts and all these things in our mind, and we see these things in our physical space, but like the way to capture it, the way to utilize these things is spectacular. Just from understanding the way they intertwine, how they can be used to better your life is just everything.